Okay, here we go. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here. My name's Lisa. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a wellness advocate with doTERRA, and I met Leigh through a mutual friend who spoke super highly of her, and we came together, and turns out Leigh's an aromatherapist, and she's a member of our team. So we've just been kind of talking about some of the ways that she approaches essential oils, because it's a little bit different than how we might approach essential oils, just having like some background and some of the gifts that she actually has. I want to show you guys these really awesome blends. So Leigh in and of herself has these sort of 4 signature blends that she's created, and this is sort of what got me thinking, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to share like her process with us? And so these are some of the blends that she's made. This one is water, and she's got these little labels. She's got one called earth, and then one called fire, and then one called air. So we're touching on all the elements, but they're really beautiful, simple blends. And they're honestly like nothing that I've really ever smelled before. So it's really cool when it's nice for us lay people to be able to put stuff together, but it is actually kind of cool when we have somebody who, you know, understands the different notes and like kind of deals with it on a different level, kind of come here and give us a little bit of training on that. So I put this together sort of last minute with Leigh. And again, if you guys have any questions, if there's anything that you ever wanted to ask, this would be a good time to do that. And without further ado, I'm not sure how this is going to go today. That we're going to hear from. Oh, I wanted to also say that Leigh does some other stuff. She's also a shamanic priestess. Is that what? So there's a really interesting intuitive spiritual side to how she puts her stuff together. So that's why we called it intuitive blending, because I think she's going to encourage you guys to kind of look into yourselves when you're putting your blends together and not just rely on recipes all the time. Maybe. Is that kind of what we're okay? All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Leigh. Welcome, Carson and Chris. This is so exciting. I'm just going to turn it over to Leigh and mute myself. Again, I'm just going to remind you guys, if you have chat box, if you want to chat about stuff, go ahead and pop your comments in the chat box. Okay.
Questions are good.
Questions are good. That's why we're doing this on Zoom as opposed to Facebook Live, right? Leigh's hoping that you guys are going to have some questions. You can just unmute yourself or raise your hand or whatever. Okay.
There you go. All right. Thanks. Taking care of me there. Hi, everyone. Thanks for jumping on here today. So I just wanted to say that I first got into aromatherapy oils because when I was a new mom, my kids were severely allergic to Tylenol. They couldn't, when they took it, they would become super hyper, get rashes, and just fall apart. Like it was doing the opposite effect of what I wanted it to do. So I had a neighbor that had the entire kit, and it looked so beautiful to me. And I would go into her closet where she kept it and just became so obsessed with all the blending and the oils, and it just took off from there. And then I had extreme eczema, like it was covered my whole body, and I couldn't sleep. And it was also a really huge part of my healing in that too. So just a little bit of a background in that. And then I got my certificate in aromatherapy, and I started venturing into the spiritual aspect of being a shaman and a priestess, and it just kind of came out of that. So Lisa's right. When I blend things, I obviously have the scientific knowledge, but I also kind of marry it with the intuitive side. So I'm assuming that for the most part, everyone's aware of base notes, middle notes, and top notes. Should I assume that? No. Nope. Okay. So when you're blending a blend, there are different notes that are what they call a base note, and a middle note, and a top note. Your base note is the lingering smell. So when you blend oils, you should, at the beginning, sort of pick a base, a middle, and a top. when you smell them, it shouldn't ever have one oil that stands out. It should smell like you've created an entirely different thing altogether. So the top note hits you first, the middle note comes after, and the base note is what lingers. But all in all, it's a new smell. So you don't want your base notes to be the maximum number of drops. You want it to be actually the smallest amount. So what I do when I sit down to make an oil is if it was basic, between the base, middle, and top, I would decide what my basic note is, and decide what my middle is, and decide what my top note is. Then I'm deciding what my dilution ratio is. So for me, when I do a 10 ml roll-on, I'm looking anywhere between 4 drops if it's a kid, and up to 30 drops, depending on what the age range is. I never really go past 30, which I believe is a 10% dilution ratio, just because, in my opinion, if you're going to be wearing this on you all the time, you don't want to overdo yourself. There is such thing as overdoing it with the same scent all the time. Having said that, changing it all through the day either isn't good. So you want to find the balance. So I've decided it's 30 drops that I'm going to put in my 10 ml. So now I have to break that down into the oils. So I wouldn't go 10, 10, and 10 if I pick 3. What you want to do is kind of do your base as like a 5 drops of your base. And then your middle is the highest number. So maybe like a 15 or a 10. And then your other one is like a 6 or an 8. You kind of just want to play around with those numbers. I know it's not very scientific and it's not like a formula, but it is kind of like a hit and miss thing as far as when you start smelling. Most of the time when you have your base down first, you can build off on that and you'll know by smell. You should smell every time in between. When you put the base down, smell it. Put the middle down, smell it. Put the top note down, smell it. How do you choose that? So I think what the most important thing to know is, like, obviously who your audience is, like who you're making this for, is really important. And if it's for yourself, that's obviously easier. But what you want to do is sort of get into the mindset of what you're trying to heal. So you might be aware that there's what they call flowery notes, citrus notes, spicy, and then woody, which I sometimes are just like resins, woods, that sort of thing, and then herbal. So should I go over what those notes might be? Okay, so woody things. Oh no, I'm starting with that because it's the ground. See, this is where my woodies is like a lot of where your base notes will come from, right? This is your cedar wood, your myrrh, frankincense, patchouli, sandalwood, vetiver, those sorts of things. I have a cheap liquor. And the next, say herbals, that's like your basil, chamomile, eucalyptus. Like, think about, like, if you can grow it in your garden, it's probably an herbal. Like, you know, those sort of things. If you can use it in the kitchen, marjoram, peppermint, tea tree, thyme, those are all your herbals. Okay, then you have your spicy, which is cinnamon, clove, ginger, nutmeg, pepper. The copaiba would sort of go in that category because of the warmth that it brings and the spiciness that it brings, and that's how it'll act within a blend. Will be spicy. The next is your citrus. That's those are all top notes, by the way, mostly. So bergamot, citronella, grapefruit, lemon, lemongrass, neroli, tangerine, anything fruity, obviously. And then you have flowery, which is geranium, ylang-ylang, jasmine, juniper, rose. Lavender is technically a floral, but I like to sometimes treat it as an herbal because it's not a top note. So, I mean, it can be top or middle depending on what else you're using. So obviously, if you were using something lighter on top of your lavender, like if your next step up was to add a lemon or add chamomile or add something lighter, you could the lavender would become your base. Lavender is so easily thrown around. The problem with lavender sometimes is that it can be really stimulating for some people. So you have to be aware of who you're using it for. The next thing I do is kind of go into, well, what am I going to choose? So if I'm making something for someone or for you or herself or whoever, I first have to ask myself what they're needing. So if they're needing to calm down, so let's take anxiety for a second. So when you have anxiety, you want to calm down, right? You want to be grounded. So what are the oils that are going to ground you? Well, the things that grow in the ground, the roots, right? It really does work that way. So if you're looking to ground, look for an oil that roots itself in the ground. So your woody things, patchouli, sandalwood, frankincense, resins, things sticky, like those things come out of the bottle heavy. So they are grounding. So that's one layer. Okay. And then the next thing is, okay, this person has anxiety. They need to be grounded. What time of year is it? Okay. If it's winter and we need to add some sunshine to their blend, because they're like really dark around, then you look to your fruits, your citruses. It's really about getting in the mindset of where this person is coming from, or yourself. So I pick woody notes for grounding, for tree grounding roots, protection. What else? Anything, if you're familiar with chakra, anything to do with the root chakras is in that. So your safety, your security, your home, if your home's out of balance, those sort of things are for woody notes. Herbal notes are, for more of so if you think of herbs, they're growing in the sunlight and they're kind of refreshing, right? So this is when you encourage breath in your herbal notes, because what they need in order to grow is oxygen, sunlight. And so if that's what you're looking for, you turn to these medicines. If that makes sense. There's a chat. I don't know how to open it. Oh, is that Frankie? What notes are each of the categories? Oh, okay. Do you want me to go over that again, Frankie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So herbal notes are basil, chamomile, clary sage, eucalyptus, marjoram, oregano, peppermint, pines, rosemary, sage, tea tree, thyme. Oh, is it herbal base, middle, top? Oh, sorry. Herbal base is middle. Peppermint and eucalyptus can be considered a top note, but most of the time I like to consider them as middle, but they go either way. But none of them are bases. Do you want me to keep going over the wood? So I'll just go over that quickly again. So woody is cedar wood, cypress, fir, frankincense, It's the reason that the trees are in the woody and not the herbal is because what they're taking it for is from it's a deeper rooted system. If you think of it that way, if you forget, think of it like does a cypress grow out of the ground like little green sprigs, or does it have a tree? And it's a tree, so then it falls into woody. It doesn't fall into frankincense, juniper, myrrh. Juniper because it's a berry and it comes from a tree. Patchouli, sandalwood. And then the spicy notes are cinnamon, clove, ginger, nutmeg, black pepper, and then I said that the copaiba also falls into that category. Then your citrus is bergamot, citronella, grapefruit, lemon, lemongrass, lime, lemon balm, which is called Melissa as well, same thing. Neroli, orange, tangerine, petitgrain. And then your flowerly notes are your rose, ylang ylang, like I said, lavender, geranium, juniper, magnolia, yeah,
jasmine,
magnolia, jasmine, all, yeah. And if you ever heard of this blend champa, which I know it's not offered in doTERRA, but basically champa is a blend of sandalwood and magnolia. So if you ever come across champa, that's what that is. It's an Indian blend. It's really popular in India. Yeah, so sorry, spicy, citrus, and flower, and spicy in middle of top. Spicy is definitely a middle note. Flowers are top notes, and most citrus are top notes as well.
Could you, now that we've had a discussion of what all the different notes are, can you go back to what you said at the beginning where you were talking about the different drops and—
Oh yeah, sure.
And like now that we kind of have an idea of the list of oils,
yeah, for sure.
kind of put it all together now like you would do a blend.
Okay, so if I was gonna do a blend, I would pick a base note. Like let's make a blend here for I don't know. Let's say anxiety. So your anxiety is that you're like overthinking all the time, that kind of anxiety. Can't calm down. This is daytime anxiety, not nighttime sleep anxiety. Just your every day of the mill anxiety. Okay, so you would pick a base note, and so you're looking at your woods, right? We're looking at our woods because we want to be grounded. When you have anxiety, you're all up here in the head, and so you need to ground yourself. So we look at the woods, and I'm gonna pick patchouli. It's my favorite. Okay, and also my anxiety is during the summer, and I feel like I can't catch my breath because it's always hot and I'm always in my head, and I feel like I'm, you know, that it's I'm too busy all the time. So I'm gonna pick a middle note, and I really like ylang ylang. So I'm gonna pick that next, okay? And then I really just want to brighten up that whole thing because it's just gonna make me breathe easier, and I'm gonna pick something soft like tangerine. Tangerine's really soft. So because I'm during the day, I don't want to relax too much into a sleep. I don't want to pick anti-anxiety that's gonna make me relax and go to sleep. I want to be able to go through my day with ease. So I'm trying to keep myself grounded yet alert. So the first thing I do is I look at that, and I'm going to get a 10 ml roll-on bottle, and I'm going to fill it with the 10 ml carrier oil. I know that some people use the fraction, like the coconut oil. That's fine. Avocado oil is fine. Those two oils have the longest shelf life. So if you're not planning on using it for right away, those are two really good options. If it's just going to be a massage you're going to do for yourself, or it's going to be used right away, you can look at anything in the kitchen, grapeseed oil, whatever you've got. The next, I'm going to figure out the percentage or how many drops I want to put in. I like to do like a 4-6-6 for myself. So if it's 10 mil, that's only 15, but I feel like if I'm going to carry it around all day, I'm going to apply it multiple times. So I'm going to look at 4-6-6. Yeah. So that's whatever. It's 12 + 6, 16. Yeah. So your base is going to be 4. Your middle note's going to be 6, sorry, 6. And your top note's going to be 6. Your base, like I said, is always the least amount that you choose. You don't want it to overpower the other smells. It's already, they're usually are not overpowering. They're subtle, but the funny thing is about base notes help top notes linger. Base notes are like, they partner with the top note and they allow it to like blend the whole blend together. So it's really important that you also add them, like you build the blend like that as well too. So in the bottle, you're actually putting in your base note first, and then you're adding your middle note, then you're adding your top note.
It's true.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, actually, can you guys hear me even though I have my microphone off? Like, yeah, okay. I was going to ask, something that we teach a lot is that top notes will flash off faster than bottom notes, which is what you just said,
yeah.
right? So this is really interesting. It's not something that I knew, that by pairing it with a base note, like a deeper note, that you can actually have that stick around longer, because I knew that dilution, so like as opposed to just putting wild orange neat on your hands, that's gone quickly, but I knew that if you put it with a carrier oil, you could help it stick around. But I didn't know that by adding a base note like patchouli or
it supports it longer, so it'll last.
Interesting.
It'll last longer.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, that's the importance of building, right? So that's sort of a basic blend. You can use it if you want. The intuitive side for me, maybe I'll talk a little bit about that. The intuitive side for me is kind of whack. To me, like, this is kind of going to the extreme, but to me, they all make a sound. So I'm not expecting you.
Roll with it.
Yeah,
this is really cool.
I'm not expecting you to hear it or learn to hear it. I mean, it might, but for me, when I put oils side by side, they each have a frequency and a vibration. So when I put two oils next to each other, I feel their harmonics of each other, and they start to make like a little mini symphony, which is really out there, and I understand that. But what I'm asking you to do is, when you sit there with your oils, you will, when you start to learn how to do this more and more, you will start to understand who likes each other. It's like a giant family, and you'll start to understand like what oils work well together and which oils don't. I mean, yeah, you probably don't want to put a bunch of patchouli with lemon. I mean, that probably, but if you added a little bit of ylang ylang and a little bit of clary sage, and there's like a little bit of a, happy medium in there, and there's one drop of lemon, you're making a better relationship, right? You'll dump stuff out, and that's okay. Like, it really is okay to make a blend and dump it out and say like, oh my God, this is gross, I'm dumping it out. Your brain is scientifically designed to be attracted to the things that your body needs. Much like a food, do I ever do more than 3 oils? Yeah, Frankie, all the time. Like, I will pick like up to 6, for sure. Yeah, but that takes practice. It really does take practice. To pick, if you want to do more than 3 oils, Frankie was asking, if you want to do more than 3 oils, we'll pick up to 5 or 6. That takes a lot more practice, and that takes a lot more understanding of how you're building. And it's just, it's just knowing how to balance it, basically.
So would you discover that just by, like you said, trial and error, just kind of, you know, figuring out what the base, middle, and top are, thinking about what you are needing it for, and then putting the blend together slowly, 3-4 oils at first, and then just building up through trial and error.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully at this point you've developed a relationship with the oil, so you know what stands out more than others. And so when you go to pick your numbers, you will have a general idea of what of where to place them, right? You'll have an idea of where your bases are, and you'll have an idea of where your middles are and your top, and then you'll be like, okay, I'm doing 30. Okay, I'm gonna just take away 4 point, like four drops goes to one of the bases, the other 4 goes to the other bases, and you see that the numbers start to go down, like it's math, right? So there's 8, so I'm left with 22. Okay, do I want my highest note to be lemon or whatever? Pick your highest notes and you separate those. Okay, I really want it to be 6 and 6, right? Because I really want them to stand out. Or I want this one to be 10, right? And you just start taking it away. Like, I'll write it down mathematically first, and then go to my bases, and then build it into the middle, and then go into the tops. It's making the equation for yourself first. That's 6.
So having said that, how do you, when you're blending for people and you're creating these blends, like, do you have like a journal or like some kind of like notes book, you know, like, or like how do you keep it organized? Like, what do you, I mean, maybe you don't, I don't know, maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but.
Yeah, like when I deal with clients, you mean? Yeah, well, I have questions I ask, obviously. They're, you know, it matters to me. Those questions matter. Like, how old, I don't know if you know, go through them, but like how old they are, what's going on for them in their lives.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we should go through them because even though we're not, like in this room, we're not aromatherapists, a lot of times people do come to us for recommendations. So it would be nice to know like what, you know, some good questions might be to, you know, get to know them.
So I feel like some good questions are, well, if you don't know how old they are, like, you know, you obviously need to know if it's for a kid, adult, or older person. And then, sorry, I was just reading the chat. And then, if you need it okay, age goes first, then what their issue is, obviously. And then you're going to break down their issue. So, okay, I have headaches is a super, super common basic thing. Okay. I have headaches. I get them. And you say, when do you get them? That's really important. When? And then your next question is, for a female, for me, it's always next. Can you recognize if it's during your cycle? Or where in your cycle does it happen? And then you ask, what are you trying right now that works or doesn't work? And then maybe ask a little bit about what's going on for them in their lives in general. I mean, you don't need to have people tell their whole story, but like what I get on the spot, like I do farmers markets, and what I get on the spot is, I get headaches. Okay, when do you get them? Usually in the middle of the day. Okay, is it near your cycle? Like 9 times out of 10, they have no idea. like they don't. But when you ask them to look, they will stand there and figure it out. They do. They'll be like, oh, actually, I've never thought of that before. No, it's not when I get it. It's mid-cycle. Okay, so it's ovulating. Okay, so that's another aspect. So it's hormonal, basically then. So then you're not, and then you say, what else is going on in your life? Like, why can't you take care of this headache? Right? Okay, well, I'm at work when I have it, and I don't like to take Advil, and I have to keep working, so I need a solution that's not going to put me to sleep, but it's going to allow me to continue to work that day. Okay, so everybody's going, oh, she needs peppermint. No. Okay. She has hormonal issues and she needs something to balance her hormones, and she needs something that's going to help her keep focus at work or allow her to relax. Peppermint can be extremely stimulating for people that are already in a hyperspace. The same with eucalyptus, same with lavender, actually.
So that's why it's important to kind of get to grips with the times that they're experiencing the headaches, right?
Exactly.
Because it's not when they're lying in bed, chilled out, ready to go to sleep.
No.
That's a different,
different thing altogether. Right? So digging into those questions is really important. And then you'll develop like an intuitive, everybody has an intuitive gift. Like, it's not just people that call themselves intuitives. Like, everyone has the ability to tune into being intuitive. You have to just have a sense of who your customer is, who your client is. So she needs hormonal balance, and you're going to look to the notes that help her with that are, she's trying to talk. And
who's trying to talk?
I don't know.
Is somebody trying to talk?
No. Okay. Geranium's a really great one for hormones. Geranium, florals, think feminine. Like, it's really that simple. Like, oh, she's a female, she needs flowers. Like, I don't mean to break it down into gender like that, but it is really like, it's true. It's true. It's hard. It's our medicine. So, yeah. And then I just, like, if you're looking at your list, I would encourage you to build, instead of looking them, and, you can have those lists as flowery, citrus, woody, spicy, herbal listed, but go over it today and change it up a little bit too. Instead of saying woody, say rooting, say earthing, say grounding. And instead of saying spicy, say warming, say comfort, say, pick the seasons that you would put those into. Make lists like that for yourself. Like, look at your citrus and say juicy, bright, awakening, happy, divide things into that for yourself for a little while. Have a few charts going. That's what I used to write down, like a few different charts for different things. Like, if I looked at it, broke it down into chakras, or if I broke it down into mood, or I broke it down into a certain feeling, what it reminded me of in the time of year, all those things are really important when you're building your blend. And I mean, I'm going to go into depth in that more in other classes. Yeah.
I love that idea of taking the oils and breaking them into those like keywords. Like, I love the idea of taking citrus and making a list of like all the citrus oils and then what they actually bring to mind, which for me is like sunshine, brightness. Juicy is a really good one. Health bringing, like, those are things that citrus oils really evoke for me. And so being able to have that lexicon of common words that elicit those emotional responses is a cool tip, actually, for how we get to play with and get to know our oils. I think.
And naming the problem is also super important. Like, naming the right emotion here is really, really, really important. So if someone's experiencing anger, that's not enough. Like, anger falls into so many different categories. Is it anger because of grief? Is it anger because of frustration? Is it anger because of boundaries been broken? Is it anger because, I don't know, she's mad at her kids all the time? Like, there's so many different forms. So also making sure you're naming the right emotion when you go to approach these oils is really, really important as well.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I guess it behooves us then as wellness advocates, like this, if there's anything that I took away from this, is like to ask, even if you think you've asked too many questions, like, you have to actually ask a couple more.
Yeah.
Like, just really take the time to, assist people in actually getting to the root of, like, because I'm guilty, like, I'm super guilty. Oh, you've got a headache? Like, sure, I've got some peppermint for you. And that's an easy, like, sample, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Like, why do you have the headache? Like, maybe she needs peppermint for work and blue blockers. like there could be like another thing, but I never figured out that it's because she's at work that she has a headache, or so.
And in terms of like getting people to to invest in your oils and your business or whichever, in terms of that, the more personal you make it, it is the better, the more people can't see themselves not having it. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to make it as personable as possible and not fall into the habit of categorizing everybody into, oh, you can't sleep, a lavender, oh, you've got a headache, peppermint, oh, those sorts of things. It's the more creative you get with it and the more in depth you start to learn what these things will do, the better it'll benefit everyone.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have anything else?
No, is there any other questions?
Yeah.
Like, I'm free to answer any.
So you guys can either like raise your hand and I'll unmute you if you want to say something, or if you know how to use Zoom, just unmute yourself. This is a totally safe space. And if you have any questions at all, like, fire away. Don't be shy.
No, nothing.
Not yet. We'll let people think about it. Oh, Erin, do you have something? No? Okay.
No, Erin wants to know it all. She's just like, I don't have a question. I just want to know everything. Keep going.
I will say one thing, like what Leigh said about, as wellness advocates, we're in an interesting space, right? Because we're not quote unquote trained, but I also want to say, like, that's what these little seminars are for, and that's why we have guides and why we have like books. And I never want any of you guys to ever feel like you need to be an expert in order to help someone, because if they're actually on a journey, the same, and I think Leigh would agree, she has a client that comes to her and says, I can't sleep, and she gives her something and it's not exactly what she needs, Leigh would adjust, right? But that person has to want to work with Leigh and see her again and then make the adjustments. And so it's always, when you're looking to optimize your health, it's always a longer term pathway that you have to want to hold hands with someone and walk down, right? Like, this isn't a one and done type scenario. So, as wellness advocates, of course, I would just encourage you guys to, be patient with them, but also meet them where they're at. And you're probably not going to get it right every time right out of the gate, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So,
and this was just a little intro about, like, literally just the basics of blending. So there is obviously so much more that you can dive into with the oils. I mean, and one thing you can do is, if you really want to get more familiar, is to start picking one scent and sit with it, like, every day, and just get to know it better, and just go through them like that. It really does it will offer its own teachings in its own.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good, you guys. 45 minutes. That's what I said it would be. Does anybody have any questions before we sign off at all? Did you guys find this helpful? Like, is this good information? Yeah? Well, good.
It was good. I have a question. It's totally not related to blending, but I'm wondering, whereabouts are you located, Leigh?
I'm on Salt Spring.
You're on Salt Spring. I'm just wondering if you know my mother-in-law. She lives in Nanaimo. And she's also a shaman, but she's a medium as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Her name is Terry Lynn Boyle. She lives in
I've heard of her. Yeah, I know who she is. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. I was like, I wonder if she knows my mother-in-law.
Yeah. No, I've never met her personally, but I've heard of her for sure. Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny when the paths cross worlds. Like, there's obviously so much more places you can take essential oils into. So
yeah, it's interesting. Can you see that?
Yeah. Sounds good. I'll be teaching more about that though too. So look out for more of that kind of stuff.
Good.
Yeah,
great.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, no, this is definitely just like a really basic, like, I feel really blessed that we have, Leigh on our team to be able to kind of help us out with some of these, because I do feel like sometimes there is a barrier that exists between the world of aromatherapy and doTERRA, and I think that gap is getting smaller. That more and more aromatherapy, Leigh has said herself, and I mean, she could even echo it right now, when she started to make her custom blends, she realized, like, she was like, these oils are really great. Like, that was kind of a really
my blends are the best. I'm just saying.
But yeah, using doTERRA was like a really, that was cool to just hear her say. So
yeah, like if you've had, where's my 4? I'll quickly just give you like a very quick thing of why mine are water, earth, fire, and air for you, just really quick, because they're available to buy, and I'm not trying to plug anything, but just a basic as far as blending goes. This is the water, and water is designed in mind to help hormones. And a reason it's water is because water is a time of year of fall, and in the fall we release things. And when we're going through hormones, we need to release what's not good and create more of what is positive hormonals in our body. And so it's for release. So water flows. Think of it that way.
So does your period.
And so does your period. Exactly. Seriously, it does. And then so for fire, I think fire is energy. Fire is creative. Fire is like the fire inside of you. It sits in your solar plexus, and it is cultivated in summer. So it's in the heat. Summer, heat, fire. It's like, this sounds like that's basic, right? Like, okay, I need to create some fire in me. Like, let's bring it to citrus can be is warm, and it's awakening, and it's bright. And then earth is for grounding, like that simple. So it smells like the dirt, kind of.
It actually smells like dirt, you guys. Like, it's crazy how it smells like dirt. I couldn't believe it.
Like nice dirt. It's not
like soil. Actually, it smells like soil, right? Like good organic soil, not like cheap gross dirt.
No, yeah, like a soil after it rains, almost. Like, she's like, yeah. So grounding, earthing, right? That kind of thing. So that's really good in winter. That's why it's like earth is time of winter. Winter is, you don't have to use them in winter. I'm just saying, like, those are all my words for when I'm creating something. And then the last one is air, and air is in our heart, and air is a time of spring, and so therefore it's florals. It's time. It opens up our heart, our chest forward into spring.
And if any of you guys have ever heard Emily Wright talk about essential oils, she is really, really connected in that heart space. And she talks about the connection between the heart and the floral oils all the time. And it's almost like when you hear her talk about them, you can see it. It's like she's like, her heart is blooming forth with it's amazing, her energy. So
and I mean, like, that's the energetic thing, but it really it can help in so many other ways. It's just that's my go-to. And when people have, when people say, oh, I have arthritis, I give them fire, because the notes get their blood system circulating to the points. It warms them up. It gets things going to there, and it actually helps arthritis. So there's multiple layers to every blend, and you just kind of choose your angle and go with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yay, that's so exciting. Thank you so much, Leigh. So yeah, that's it, you guys. That's all we got. I will put the recording in the learning series. So if you guys want to tag your people, Leigh, is it okay if we share this around? So, and if you guys want to share it on some other places, just let me know and I can make it a shareable link. But yeah, you do, Sarah? Okay. All right. That's it. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.